Yes, I got it. YouTube, thank you. It was asking me, Todd, if I got it. And I think they were referring to my coffee. Greetings. Greetings, everyone. This meeting is now live streaming. YouTube is informing me. Welcome. Welcome to the early morning hours, at least if you are in the US. It is 8 a.m. Eastern time. And
9 a.m. Sao Paulo time.
What's that?
9 a.m. Sao Paulo time.
9 a.m. your time, 8 a.m. my time. It works out. I'm a morning guy. You're a morning guy. So you guys get two Todds with lots of energy and coffee. What could possibly go wrong? All I know is that on the other side of me is Todd Lewis. He is our lead tech engineer for Epic Cash, the Epic Cash protocol. And if you've been around for a while, you know that Todd Lewis is, relatively famous for his t-shirts. He always surprises you. And so this morning, what are we featuring here, Todd?
That's Thundercats, man. Surely a fellow child of the 80s knows this on sight, right?
Shout out. Yeah. Well, I will tell you that I'm not going down with the ship. I'm not just going to sit back in awe of you and your t-shirtness. No, I'm going to come to battle each week. And today it's that's
too much bacon, said no one ever.
It is one of my favorite t-shirts.
Too much privacy, said Maxie's. But
oh, there's a there. I'm going to say good morning in the chat because for whatever reason, good morning. It's almost like I have to do an opening comment for somebody to come in. And indeed, that's what happens. There's already a comment in there. Mimble Wimble is in the house. Goodness gracious, do we love us some Mimble Wimble? Okay, everyone, let me set the stage. Okay. Todd Lewis is lead engineer on Epic Cash. And a few weeks ago, we came up with the notion of, we've all taken a good look into the subway system, the future of Epic Cash. But really, how often do we take a deep dive into Epic Cash and determine, tell its story really? Like, why was it engineered the way it is? What decisions went into that? When Todd Lewis and Max Freeman put their heads together, Todd shared with me two words strung together that I had never heard before, at least covering Epic Cash. And I asked the very simple question, Todd, what drove you to create Epic Cash? And Todd said it was a quest to create superior money. And then he popped up a spreadsheet, shared his screen, and he started just putting attributes on there and going down the list. And then he scored them and he threw up there Epic, Bitcoin, gold, Federal Reserve notes, and Federal Reserve digital credits. Just at the top. And then down the line, he started putting together what he thought were qualities that superior money should have. And so
we did this together, Unc.
Well, you started it.
Right.
I just took it to the next level. And I want everyone to know, I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to give it away. I'm going to give this series away at the beginning. Go ahead, Todd.
And we got a lot of great input from the community as well. Like we took it on the show. We wrote, we workshopped it.
100%. And by the way, shout out to two people in particular, and that's Spencer and his team who helped create this interactive PDF that we're going to be going through. You'll see it. You'll be impressed. Ultimately, you'll have it. I promise. It's going to be an amazing tool for you to learn. It's going to be an amazing tool for you to teach others. Second, I'd like to thank Islo, because he came up. One thing that I wanted to do is, if we have all of these wonderful attributes, not everyone knows what neutral means, or durable, or fair launch. And so within the PDF and what we're going to review, for each one of these qualities that we're going to go down and check some boxes. It's kind of ridiculous if you don't know what immutable is to determine if Epic is immutable, is Bitcoin immutable, is gold immutable, is let's see, what else do we have? Is the green cash, the Federal Reserve notes immutable? Federal Reserve digital credits, that CBDC, that nasty little word that's hanging out there now. I don't know what the hell is immutable. So we're gonna learn together. And Todd, this is where you've never seen this document that I'm gonna share.
You are sneak attacking me here. Yeah.
I'm sneak. And I will tell you that I have pre-populated what I believe are the answers, and we're going to reveal those. Now, I may have gotten something wrong. I'm totally open to being wrong. Usually not on Wednesday mornings, but it happens. So if I'm wrong, the cool thing is, by the end of this series, we're going to nail it and everything will be right. And I will get an edited version back from Spencer and his team. So, hey, let's just get the party started here. And by the way, this is going to be a series. And when I share the screen, you'll see why. All right, here we go, sports fans. This is what we're going to be going through, everyone. And what you have up here is Epic Cash. And you know what? That represents us. Now, you can put any coin in here, and we'll actually, after we go through this, we're going to make a suggestion. But of course, we put the king of all cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, there. We also, to address the gold bugs, and again, we're talking about the quest for superior money. And then we put the green cash, any kind of notes, physical currency, fiat money. And then over here we have the CBDC, the Federal Reserve digital credits. This is the future, everyone. And I will just tell you right now, once we go through what are all the positive qualities, you're going to see not a lot of check boxes here for Federal Reserve digital credits, and it really should scare the crap out of you. But all right, let's get into this.
And also, I think Federal Reserve digital credits are also the past, right? Because for the past 30 years or so, and even back farther than that, I mean, dating back to the advent of computing and banking in the 60s, Federal Reserve notes have really just been kind of like coupons for credits within the Federal Reserve System, which is a digital system and has been more or less since the 70s, right? Okay. So all of the, they're slapping lipstick on the pig by taking this digital currency system that they've had for a while and repackaging it as a blockchain with none of the benefits of blockchain. But the fact that it's, the reason we say digital credit instead of, central bank blockchain is US dollars, their fundamental nature is a liability against the American banking system, right? Okay. Or a claim on purchasing power that sits within the US banking system under the Federal Reserve. And is constantly depreciating, right? As Paul Krugman goes on the editorial page of the New York Times twice a week to explain to us why that's such a fabulous thing.
Okay, excellent. Right. So just to give people a preview, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to go down these. And when I said that there's definition of terms, let me go to the second page of this. See the definitions? Medium of exchange, an asset which is used to trade for products and services. So that would match with medium of exchange here. Okay. And again, let me go to the second page. Come on. Then there's a third page that we have here. So I think we have pretty much everything covered. But if we don't, we will add to it. But then we have a score over here, Todd. And once we fill these in, I would love for you to weight all of these as their level of importance from 1 to 10. Like what would be the absolute, and there can be many 10s, there can be many, or if you would like a different, if 1 through 5, it's your movie.
10 is fine.
What's that?
1 to 10 is fine.
1 to 10 is fine. Okay. So that's going to be Todd Lewis is going to fill that in. And you'll see that what's cool, it's interactive. We can just put 10 right there. And I think you'd probably agree with means of payment is pretty important if you're going to have superior money. Correct?
Yeah, I think, I think means of payment is probably the ultimate function of money. It's free society from barter. So
now, now I think that anybody on the surface, and we're going to get into this, we're going to start the process, everyone. But I do want to again give the end at the beginning, which means every week we're going to go through these together. Now we may get through immutable today, but this is going to be a series where every week we're going to pick back up on it. But optimally, what we would love to have here is a destination, a series that will be within the Uncle Vigilante channel that will be called The Quest for Superior Money. So for me, if I had this as a tool from the very beginning, I would have been so much smarter about crypto and blockchain technology so much sooner. So we all know kind of the difficulty of being able to evangelize Epic Cash, other than saying it's better than Bitcoin. Trust me, invest in it. No, this is going to be an actual, we wanted to be able to do this so that we could literally sit around the table. We'll represent Epic Cash. Somebody could represent Bitcoin. It could be a Bitcoin maxi. Someone could represent gold, and there may be somebody who could represent the Federal Reserve notes or the digital credits. The idea here is not to be combative. The idea here is to say, no, let's go through a grown-up exercise to where, first of all, let's define what are qualities of superior money. Okay, so means of payment, that's a quality of superior money. The Bitcoin people. So Epic, I would click on that and there's a check mark. Isn't that cool? Bitcoin, the Bitcoin person is going to say, absolutely, we are a means of payment. Gold, the gold bug is going to say we're a means of payment. Certainly, Federal Reserve notes are a means of payment, as are digital credits. Now, I check all of those to show you that down here, there's a means of payment that's restricted. So you'll see this is perceived. So this is what the world perceives, the people that spend all of their time watching, getting fed from the TV, from the news. This is probably what they would say. Yeah, these are all means of payment. But down here, we're going to, I don't know why this, there we go. I'm going to do this, read mode. Okay, that'll disappear, I think. But down here, means of payment, Bitcoin is not a good means of payment. Gold, not a good means of payment. Federal Reserve notes, not a good means of payment. And Federal Reserve digital credits, not a good means of payment. We might as well start here, Todd, to talk about perceived, what people on the surface will say, but then let's talk about means of payment, because we know that Bitcoin can be restricted, right? We know that you can't buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks with Bitcoin, because why? Because it is so slow. and the
Expensive.
transaction fees are so
Yeah.
high, right?
Right. Right.
So I think it would be, go ahead.
I mean, the you can make too much of the transaction fees. They spike up sometimes, but for bigger purchases, that it's a concern. It's a concern for day-to-day purchases. Yeah. But the same is true of Visa and Apple Pay, right? Which is what the digital credits in the banking system are increasingly becoming.
Right.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but with means of payment though, let's just talk about it, because again, this is an exercise for what? It is a quest for superior money. So why then, tell us about the design of Epic Cash and why it is a superior means of payment. What are the qualities of our blockchain that make it so?
Fast block times and lots of capacity. So the ability of Epic to push large quantities of transactions through is good, and we know how to make it better. And our block times are fast, and we know how to make them faster. So we're 60 seconds. We've talked about taking that down to 15 seconds.
How would you take it down to 15 seconds?
I mean, you could just do it trivially by changing the difficulty adjustment in the code. But the question then is, what does that do in terms of the mining impact and the integrity of the chain? So you need to look at it carefully and probably talk to the miners, talk about the practicalities, and see what it would mean in terms of chain reorganization, and the reversibility of transactions.
Okay.
Right.
So
and that might drive you to add some more safety checks or more layers of protection against chain reorganizations. It's an engineering question.
Now, some of those decisions would be made or could be made. And one thing that I think is really cool about what you and your team has created is we aren't limited to just our blockchain to be able to go on there and say, I think this is going to work. Let's hit the button. Tell us about your test net to where you can go play around with this stuff and see how it would really impact the blockchain if it were live.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of work on that recently to speed up our test suite, add a lot more testing, and we've got talks about using the test net to prototype and get ready different kinds of technology in case we need them in the future on the mainnet.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I want to talk about Bitcoin being a means of payment. And the reason why it's restricted is we all know the story about the trucker that or the mother of three that sent I believe it was $50 worth of Bitcoin to the trucker cause, and ended up they tracked that back to her, and they they shut down her bank. I mean, her banking. They confiscated her assets. And so to me, that would make me very nervous using Bitcoin as a means of payment, because
in fairness, we are talking about terroristic parking violations here, Uncle V. Right. I mean, they have SWAT team meter maids up there in Canada for a reason. They were parking without permission, man. I don't think you appreciate the seriousness of what was going on up there. They were parking and they didn't have permission. And that's why, they gave the black helicopters to the meter maids to build the meter maid SWAT teams and declared a national emergency. Because, I mean, you can't parking violations. And they were terroristic activity will not stand.
And they were very horny. They were honking their horns the whole time. And that so the meter maids just Anyway, we beat that up. But the point is, Bitcoin is a surveillance coin. You can surveil. Tell me, Todd, because I think this is important. There are companies that literally make their living by data mining the Bitcoin blockchain, correct?
Sure.
And what are they looking for, and what can they find that they can't find in Epic?
They're looking for the transaction patterns, how much coins are going and where they're going to. And there are really only two reasons why you can't see that in Epic. Number one, you can't see the quantities. And number two, you can't see where they're going to. So there's that. I hope that technical explanation wasn't over anybody's head. We could review it if we need to.
But in your quest for superior money, that was important, right? You wanted to be able to maintain.
Absolutely, because if otherwise you don't have fungibility. This is on the list, is I think.
Yeah, let's go to
yeah. I mean, this. Otherwise, you have the problem that the currency stops being uniform.
There's fungible. Hey, yeah. we got a check.
We got a check mark. Yeah.
What about? Oh, yeah, no. Bitcoin didn't get
no, yeah, because now you have these tainted coins, right? You have an ever-growing blacklist of specific coins which are not acceptable in the regulatory universe and inside of the Bitcoin blockchain.
Why don't people know about this? Well, I mean, legitimately, I think Bitcoin is all that's talked about out there. I mean, the rest of us, they refer to anything but Bitcoin as shit coins. But this is really an important thing, and the Bitcoin community now I learned from the podcast that a survey was taken to where 87% of all Bitcoin holders own other coins. So it's not like they're immune or,
I think, yeah. And I think also you can give way too much importance to the maxis, who are a vocal minority. I mean, I remember back, 2014, 2015, the discussions inside of the Bitcoin community were very open to these kinds of future technologies. And then someone invented Maxiism as an ideology, and all discussions about improving blockchain stopped because we got it right the first time. Blockchain is the one technology where we nailed it the first time and we can never have any innovations. And there's not going to be any technical revolutions in this technology space.
When this exercise first started, when I first did an outreach to you, until you actually gave me the two words superior money, the way I wanted to position this was, hey, let's click our heels, go back in time, and if you were Satoshi, or if we were Satoshi, or the community here was Satoshi, who was called Satoshi, let's try to get in Satoshi's head and determine what would be important to him today, and really deeply consider, if he had today's technology, what might he add to that white paper? How might it have been differently? And that's how this thought experiment started. So I think Satoshi probably would have been concerned about privacy and fungibility, right? And if he would have had access to Mimblewimble, what are your thoughts on him using it? Why did you?
I mean, Mimblewimble is the future. Mimblewimble is the obvious solution to the problem of fungibility, right? If you can't see identities and quantities, then the commodity remains uniform. There is no tainting, right? You can't have some coins that people smile on, and other coins that people frown upon. Right.
So gold then would maintain its fungibility. That's pretty fair, right? Because
I think so. I mean, the only way you can taint gold is like to put radioactive tracers in it or something, right? Otherwise, it's, you can melt it down and recast it, and no one knows where the gold came from. Gold is just gold, and you can, it is what it is.
Yeah,
And it just has a market value, right? Like a commodity by definition does.
Yeah, and speaking of, and I'm going to give a big reveal here because, I have been working on a gold blockchain. Hold on. You're not the only engineer in Epic Cash. Look at this. This is a fungible gold blockchain, and the hardest working uncle in cryptocurrency created it. So just give me some props right there, Todd Lewis.
Turnover chain, Epic edition.
Okay, well, while we're on this, tell us why.
Hey man, I have a suggestion. Someone in the chat was giving us grief for the means of payment check and Xboxes because we haven't explained ourselves yet. What if we leave those off until we get to the end?
These?
The top and the bottom, right?
Okay.
Because those are the conclusion of the rest of the discussion, right?
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. I think you were just trying to demonstrate the idea. But after we fill out the middle, then I think we can do those 2 rows last.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. So whoever in there suggested that, thank you. But let's take a look at the
Tillman. Thanks, Tillman.
Thanks, Tillman. Oh, Tillman rocks, by the way. His articles. Tillman, you know what I want to do? And reach out to me if you think it's okay. I had asked if Tillman wanted to come on my show and review all of his. He writes these amazing articles on Epic Cash. He breaks down whether it's fungibility or whatever, and he just writes amazingly well. I don't think he is as confident in his English, perhaps. I don't know, but he was a little cautious about coming on. But Tillman, if you're cool with it, I was thinking about literally taking your articles, just putting them on and walking through, because some people like to read, some people like to listen. I like podcasts. I like YouTube channels where I can go for a walk and listen. So I think I might just pull your articles up and just read them and call it Tillman time. So if you're cool with that, I propose that. But let's talk about Federal Reserve notes and why they aren't fungible. I mean, cash is cash.
There's an episode of Justified about this.
All right. Drop some knowledge.
They've got serial numbers on them, and in the banking system, they surveil the serial numbers.
So if I have, all of a sudden I have $100,000 in cash,
right?
Uncle V sold one of these, right? And I go to my bank and I say, here, please deposit this 100,000. The banking system is going to review, they're going to track all of the serial numbers of that $100,000 of cash I brought in, right?
Yep.
They will be able to determine the last exit, the last place it exited.
Yeah, they know when those left the banking system, and they know when they returned into the banking system.
Right. Now, what happens in the banking system in between, you don't necessarily know. Right. I mean, it could be that $100,000 could have gone through a lot of different places, but they do know, look, if there was somebody to where it exited the system that may be in jail right now for dealing cocaine, right? Maybe they connect some dots that Uncle V's big deposit wasn't from this gold blockchain. I don't know. But that is why it is not fungible. So again, this series is dedicated to going through the qualities, defining. Let's go down to fungibility. Let's see, where can we find that? Oh, there it was. Fungible. Trading of two assets which have no meaningful distinction between the two assets. Epic assures that all coins appear the same by using coin join technology, which essentially melts down coins into new coins after each transaction. Is that a good way to say that?
No. Coin join is nice, but it's Mimblewimble that does the heavy lifting here.
Okay, educate us, because we're going to go back after this and we're going to modify the wording. We're making sausage here, guys. Ultimately, the end product is going to be, after this series ends, is a document that is going to be Todd Lewis blessed, and then we're going to work on the definitions so it can be a tool for you and me. So yeah, let the definition of fungibility in your mind and with Epic.
Yeah, fungible just means that the commodity is uniform. You can't distinguish between 1 ounce of gold and another ounce of gold.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and the only way you could do that with gold, for example, is by the isotopes, because you can purify the metal through refining. You just melt it down. Mm-hmm. By controlling the melting point, you can isolate gold, right? You get it to exactly the melting temperature, and everything that has a lower melting temperature will remain solid, and then the gold pours off. And then you do the reverse, and the gold freezes, right? Yeah. So in refining, you can get the other metals out, and we've been doing that for thousands of years, literally thousands of years, right? Mm-hmm. And so gold's a great example of a uniform commodity, but any metal, water, wheat, right? The frozen concentrated orange juice. In these traditional commodity markets, they have definitions for what's acceptable, and then they'll treat a bushel of wheat like any other bushel of wheat.
Okay.
And it just has a price, right? So the reason epics are so, and the fact that they're uniform means that they're interchangeable.
Okay.
Right? Yep. One ounce of gold is just as good as another ounce of gold. Doesn't matter where it came from. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's an ounce of gold, it's an ounce of gold. You can have confidence that it's an ounce of gold, and that's that. Epic is fungible because one epic is just as good as another epic. You don't know where it came from. You don't know. You don't know the identity. You don't know the past owners, and it's Mimblewimble that establishes that you don't know the quantities going in the transaction. You don't know the quantities coming out of the transaction. Mm-hmm. So if you have coins over on this side, you don't know if they came in from A or if they came in from B. You just know that they're coins. And Mimblewimble does the heavy lifting in letting you build whatever transaction patterns you want on the chain, such that identifying the origin of the coin is impossible. They don't have serial numbers. They don't have histories. They just exist. Right?
Can you please then unpack Bitcoin fungibility with specific to history? What does each Bitcoin have?
Bitcoin's pretty different because each Bitcoin has basically an identity, and you can trace its history through the blockchain all the way back to its origin. And every wallet that has owned it in the meantime.
Okay. Right? The middle, when you were doing that, let's stop there. That was 6 hops back from where it ended up at.
It started with a miner, right?
Yeah.
But the miner sold it to somebody.
Yep.
Who then put it in exchange.
Yep.
And then someone else withdrew it from the exchange.
Yep.
And then they bought a ticket.
Now stop here. I just want to say they then used it for illicit activity.
No, I was about to say they used it to purchase a ticket to Epstein's Island. Okay.
Okay. I love you.
A fun weekend down at the pedophilia castle, right? These are not CIA people. All right. I want to dispel that rumor right now that the CIA was at all involved in what happened on Epstein's Island. Go back to watching the Johnny Depp trial. There's nothing to see at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. All right. We shouldn't care about those thousands of women who were trafficked. But anyway, he buys a ticket to Epstein's Island, and actually, I'm going to take back this example because clearly nothing bad happened on Epstein's Island. They're constantly telling us so, right? Yeah. It was all a big misunderstanding. So let's say Amber Heard used it to pay somebody to poop in Johnny Depp's bed. That's a bad thing that we should all be very obsessed with and upset about. All right. So
yes,
it was spent on bed pooping, right?
okay,
And then the bed pooper spends it to somebody else. And the fact that it was spent in this, bread and circuses distraction is very bad. And socially, we need to not tolerate it. And therefore, because the bed pooper was a Canadian trucker guilty of terroristic national emergency parking violations.
Yes.
That's why this coin is a matter of national urgency.
And horny. You have to start.
Right. Yeah. Right. Horny terroristic national emergency parking violations. Because of that, this coin has been associated with horny parking.
Yes.
We can't tolerate that. It is a national emergency. And therefore, if you receive those coins, you're going to be locked out of the banking system.
So, okay. So let's say that then it took a while for that coin to reach your wallet.
Right.
The concern about the fungibility in the history that is within each Bitcoin transaction is that it could be 6 hops back where the non-horny meter maid, issued the violation to the trucker. And now that today, because today it's considered socially unacceptable, they can identify your Bitcoin as part of that transaction.
Lock it down.
And they can lock it
down. Yeah.
And not just lock it down, but they can confiscate it, right? So,
well, they can if it's in an exchange.
Right.
Okay. Right. But they also can potentially trace it to your identity. They can lock you out of the banking system because of a blockchain transaction that you participate in. And the amazing thing is this isn't even theoretical anymore.
No. And
it happened in Canada 3 months ago.
But I'm going to call you on this because this is silly because it can't really happen to Bitcoin because 25 million Russian Bitcoin holders are now locked out of the system because they held Bitcoin. And so we're being facetious. It's happening. So we cannot stress enough that fungibility is.
Can you imagine holding Bitcoin as your emergency asset so that you could escape a war zone? And then the US government says this entire body of 100 million people, we're going to lock out as a matter of national security. If they'll do it over parking violations, they will sure as shit do it over a natural resource proxy war.
Well, I will tell you, I know from personal experience, just because my wife is Russian and her mom is still in Russia. And, she has lots of colleagues, ex-colleagues, I guess. She was a professor at one of the universities there. And she's hearing it every day of they cannot get into their own banking system. It's literally been impossible for us to get money to Bratislava. We can't even ship a package to Russia. And so the people over there who have had any aspiration of trying to figure out how to get over here to Russia, they're on a shit list. Any of them who are crypto savvy, they're not going to come over here, go through KYC in an exchange and be able to use any of the
those coins were withdrawn from a Russian cryptocurrency exchange. Right. I mean, and everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that these are Russian coins.
So those become tainted. So then I guess that helps with the scarcity argument of Bitcoin, right? Because
eventually the supply is going to go to zero.
Oh, that's good. All right, let's check this last box here. I have an X under digital credits. I think that's quite obvious. Why don't you educate us on how digital credits work in and might be able to work in the future based upon your shitty social score, Todd Lewis.
Yeah, I mean the whole point of traditional digital currency inside of the fiat banking system is that it's politically controlled, right? I mean, it does, as they say in England, it does what it says on the tin. Like that's the whole point. They have the full history inside of, and they have the full transaction history, so they know the provenance of every single dollar inside of the banking system. That's the purpose.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, because they control it, if they're successful with these digital currencies, they may be able to control you on what you can spend them on. So you may, let's just say,
and they just did that to the Russian government on their 400 billion US dollars or whatever it was in foreign exchange reserves, right?
Yes.
These dollars now cannot be spent inside of the banking system.
Indeed. And, on a personal level, let's all think about this. Maybe I like a good fillet, right? But if I have 1,000 digital credits that they gave me, digital dollars, right? Helicopter money that because the next lockdown, they're going to say, because of our big hearts, we're going to print more and more and more of these digital credits. But don't worry, everyone, we're going to distribute them to you. We're going to get you through it. Just, 2 weeks to cancel the curve or whatever the hell that cliche was, right? And then you go to the grocery store and you're like, I want a good filet, and I'm going to order a good filet because inflation has taken fillets. It's $500 now.
There are three things you got to remember, man. There are three things you got to remember about the government's response to COVID. Okay, create more money, have fewer goods and services in the economy, and inflation is Putin's fault.
Right. Post facto. Yes.
Yeah. And we're going to produce fewer goods and services. We're going to add more money. And it's Putin's fault the prices are going up.
So people, seriously, when you go to the grocery store right now, a good filet, let's just say a couple of years ago may have been like, let's call it $8. You go there now and that same filet is like $20. But imagine that's okay. You just got free money from the government. They sent it to you. The CBDC says your wallet has $1,000. I'm going to go there. But guess what? They've been tracking what else you've been eating and those McDonald's and everything. And they say, no, you have gone over your cholesterol count for the month. So we're going to reject that because we can,
And again, not even hypothetical. Look at the social credit system in China.
Right. Yeah.
And look at the fact that they're politicizing the entire payment system. And if you irritate the government with antisocial behavior, right? No, we're not talking crimes that you're convicted of, just things they administratively disapprove of. You can be incrementally locked out of the ability to conduct purchases.
Because why? Because these digital credits are programmable money. Yep. And I hope that isn't.
And what happened on day 2 of the Ukraine war? Apple Pay and Google Pay were cut off.
Yep.
Political money.
And you know what? Political persuasion. Now we're talking about money with Apple Pay, but with UPS, what the hell does UPS have to do with it? But guess what? It is political in nature because the pressure that they get from shipping into Russia was so big by the government that they had to say, we'll bend over. We'll acquiesce because of the political pressure. So go ahead.
And this is why, to me, like the core issue that Epic is designed to address is fungibility.
So should we give fungibility a 10?
I give it a 9.
Okay.
you know.
All right. It's
You
absolutely.
want to try to squeeze in one more?
Let's squeeze in one more for this
Okay.
for today's show.
Maybe a small one. You want to do quantum future proof?
Let's do that right there, right there. Can I drum roll? Hold on.
No, it's an X for us, man. We are not quantum future proof.
Oh, okay.
No. Yeah.
All right.
No, we're not.
Okay, so let's let me make my notes here. Quantum.
However, we are looking at it.
Okay.
I think we're gonna be we're definitely gonna be the first one on this list.
Okay, so
It's an X for everyone. You could maybe give us a question mark because we are going to do it.
oh, look, see guys, this is me learning with you together because I had gold.
Oh, you're right that gold is quantum future proof, a future, cryptography apocalypse. Oh, and Federal Reserve notes. Actually, I take that back. If you achieve quantum supremacy and you broke cryptography, it would actually undermine the entire Federal Reserve System. You can debate that one.
Okay, so this check mark, you're basically saying that
it's not a check mark yet. It's
not yet.
It's a future feature. Yeah, we are totally going to do it.
So what I'm going to propose is we're going to have a new symbol that's going to be FF. Future
or a question mark, right? Or FF, sure.
Yeah, I think FF because that signifies action that we are actively working on. So how are you actively working on that? How would you and your team of engineers go about future proofing something? I mean,
well, we've already done the hard part, which is Epic is a multi-algorithm coin.
Okay.
So from the beginning, we built in the ability to easily slot in new cryptography algorithms.
Okay,
and
so
the reason
that's survivable. I thought multi-algo mining had to do with survivable.
Well, it does, and quantum future proof is our ability to survive a specific scenario.
Talk about that specific scenario.
Yeah, that specific scenario is where quantum computing undermines the fundamentals of cryptography. So traditional cryptography algorithms are broken by a breakthrough in quantum computing. And we don't know whether this is possible or not, but we know that we don't know that it's impossible.
Right, right.
We know that it might be possible, right? It's a scary scenario. And so there's a lot of active research going on in new kinds of cryptography algorithms, which are designed to be robust against quantum computers. And they use different kinds of mathematical difficulty than the traditional cryptography algorithms do. A traditional cryptography difficulty might be, for example, factoring is hard. That's the basis for Diffie-Hellman and RSA. And the new quantum algorithms are looking for other categories of mathematical difficulty, which should not be as amenable to being broken if there is a quantum computing breakthrough. So our intention with Epic is just to slot that in as a new cryptography algorithm, to have the capability sitting in the code. And if we, it's a break glass in case of emergency feature, right?
Okay.
It's sitting there, it's tested, it's ready to go. If the quantum apocalypse ever does come, Epic will be ready.
Okay, so in that case, because we're multi-algo mining, right? So we use 3 algorithms. Are you saying that you would then just, if there was some kind of break-in, if you will, that you could just pivot everything to the FF? You just like, okay, boys, time to move it all over to the quantum resistant pile.
Yeah, the plan is that we have a 4th algorithm which is not used. Right?
Yes.
It's tested and it's there and it's ready to go, but it's not used, right?
On purpose, with intent.
On purpose. Yeah. And if a quantum breakthrough ever happens, then we can quickly just change the algorithm policy on the chain, switch over to the quantum resistant algorithm, and Epic carries on as if nothing happened.
Okay.
And we designed it this way from day one for precisely this reason, right? For this category of things, so we can be ready. And it's just an engineering improvement.
See, that's great. That's great. Okay, so we quantum future proofed. What would you weight that, Todd?
Like a 1 or a 2. You know,
All right. I'm a sales guy. I round up. We're going to go 2.
Yeah, fine. I think a 2 is fair. Right.
We're gonna go 2.
It's and here's my thing for like the cryptocurrency traditionalist, which is such a funny thing to be. Of all the things to be a traditionalist about cryptocurrency is maybe the funniest. Like is, you know, the importance might be a 2. It is absolutely not a 0.
Right.
You know, it's not, you know, it's not a burning emergency or anything, but it is something you want to get around to before you need it.
Okay, so to prove to everybody that this is important to the powers that be out there, that they do not look at cryptocurrency as their friends. Can you tell us about, I believe the number is up to $750,000. It may even be in the millions. I can't remember. There is somebody who's going to get this reward if they crack the Monero code. And this has been sponsored by the Internal Revenue Service.
Yeah, the good folks at the IRS are deeply interested in digital privacy. They want to help the community create privacy, and so they're out there, you know, just as public-spirited community members, you know, helping the Monero community with their, you know, in fairness, the Monero algorithm doesn't get a lot of attention these days. And so they're out there trying to help things along, and good on them for it, right?
Yeah. So with Monero, can you just compare real quickly the Monero tech versus Mimblewimble? Just because I know that we get a lot of, especially from that TCV community out there, that every time somebody says Epic Cash, they just respond to Epic Trash. And that remember that Monero is way more fungible than Epic Trash and blah, blah, blah. But just, can you explain how they achieve privacy versus how we achieve privacy?
I mean, I can do it with an analogy.
Okay.
Early coffee makers were really expensive.
Yeah.
Like 1940s, 1950s. If you had a coffee machine, it cost like a lot of money. It had like pipes and valves and tubing, and they were really impressive pieces of engineering. Like think the fancy machine at Starbucks, but even more complicated than that. That's what a 1940s era coffee machine was like.
Wow. Okay.
And in the 1970s, someone invented, it's called the ball valve. And it's the thing that makes your modern coffee maker go.
Okay.
And it's a tube with a ball in it.
Okay.
And as the hot plate is warming the water is injecting itself up the pipe using the spontaneous pressure, and it doesn't fall back because the ball blocks the tube.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, huge, intricate pipe valve manufacturing, the 1,000 pieces versus a plastic tube with a ball bearing in it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
You have these two pictures in your mind, right?
Right.
In many ways, this is the more impressive piece of engineering, right?
Yes.
It's harder, it's more complicated, it's very intricate, it's got a very detailed story, whereas this one's just like cheap and simple. But in the more important sense, this one's the superior piece of engineering.
Right.
Because not only is it a cheaper solution to the problem, but from an engineering perspective, much more importantly, it's a simpler solution to the problem. And the simpler solution is more reliable.
So what I just heard, go ahead.
It used to be, if your 1940s era very complicated coffee maker broke, you had to call the coffee maker repairman to come out to your house.
Yeah.
We don't do that anymore.
No, you throw the coffee maker away and you just go buy one.
Because it costs $10. Right? Because it's a hot plate and a tube and a ball bearing.
Right.
And it's just better. And all the complexity in those old style coffee machines is now just not necessary anymore.
So what I just heard, and I'll end with this is my takeaway, is if we're doing a coffee machine analogy, what you just described, the more complicated one, was how Monero achieves privacy.
The earlier technology, doing the best they had with the technology they had at the time.
Yes. And then
it's very impressive.
And then the ball and the plastic, that's Mimble Wimble, that's us. It just works better and achieves privacy way better, way easier. Now, I want to go one step back from that magnificent coffee machine. And if you ever watched Blazing Saddles and you ever watched Mongo around the campfire making coffee and beans, that methodology of coffee is Bitcoin. They're just never going to change.
Just doing it by hand. Yeah. Just making it by hand.
Who enjoyed this hour-long show, Tech Talk with Todd? I hope you did. We're going to wrap things up. And as you can see, we got through 2 of these. And I hope you like it. Please do give us comments, not just in this chat, but come on over to t.me/Epic Cash and let us know what you thought. Let us know if you think this is helpful. And again, and this is for you, Islo, if you wouldn't mind watching, and if there are any discrepancies in the definitions, if you wouldn't mind taking that upon yourself, I know you will. You are another amazingly hard working community member, and I thank you for all you do. But that would be very helpful if you kind of help me keep track of that, and then we can just update this accordingly. We can work with Spencer, and then it won't have to all come at one point in time. We can just iterate it. So Todd, thank you, man. It's always a pleasure. And I think by the time we're done with this, we're going to get it right. And my hope is that once we have this all populated and filled out, this then becomes an interactive tool that anybody can use. You can refer to the definition of terms, and then you could substitute, instead of Bitcoin, you could substitute any other coin there and just go through. Like if it's somebody that's recommending Doge to you, put Doge in there and
let's talk to these people and let's take the conversation forward, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Let's talk about how to make great money. It's a happy conversation. I love doing it with you too, man.
It is a happy conversation.
Same time, same bat time, same bat channel.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
See you then.
I don't even know, because I've been sharing the screen the whole time if everyone saw my blockchain. My gold blockchain. But we're going to leave the show with Uncle V has created the first ever gold fungible blockchain. Now that I know what fungible means, so do you. It's right here around my neck. All right, everyone. I wish
you next week, man.
Great week. All right, this was fun. Thanks, Todd. Cheers.